we can confirm that 2 patients in England who are members of the same family have tested positive for coronavirus.
On February 2020, the Chinese government has built 2 hospitals aimed to receive all the COVID-19 patients in Wuhan. On that, telling the whole world this is a dangerous disease. On the 28th of February 2020, the first death case of UK citizen was reported. Unfortunately, not much has been done by the UK government to cope with the virus on the whole month. Until the 3rd of March, the Prime Minister Boris Johnson told that
wash your hands with soap and hot water for the length of time it takes to sing Happy Birthday twice. It's simple advice, but it's the single most important thing.
But by just washing hands was not enough to fight the virus.
What sort of percentage of people need to have contracted the virus?
Probably about 60% or so.
60%?
60% is the sort of figure you need to get.
However, this advice eventually has not been accepted by the government. On the 23rd of March, the Prime Minister announced that
it's vital to slow the spread of the disease. The time has now come for us all to do more. From this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home. Will only be allowed to leave their home for the following very limited purposes.
I think there was a bit more fear in the first lockdown. People were a lot more unknown about what the virus is and what it can do. I think a strict lockdown like the first one, people will stick to it for a short period of time, then it becomes very hard to enforce.
Now the first lockdown seems like such a long time ago. It's almost hard to remember, but the first time there was lockdown, it was so sudden, and it was the first time we had dealt with something like that, right? So people were quite shocked and felt that people took it really seriously. And then over time, it became, okay, this is the new life. So now it just feels like it's like today I was out and there was lots of people around, lots of people coming kind of close to each other. In the first lockdown, when it first happened, I remember I would go for a walk and people would be really worried about, okay, you've come this close to me, you're not wearing a mask or something like that. People are really worried about that kind of stuff. But today, in the street, lots of people not wearing a mask, lots of people sitting close to each other, lots of people kind of just feeling like it's coming up to summer and it's a normal time. Even if the shops are closed, we're not going to let that ruin our day, because I'm living with my mum and she's at risk. So I don't want to meet up with lots of people. For my personal situation, I didn't ever feel that I'm at risk. Okay, I heard that there's people my age, I still catch it, and I knew people who got corona around the same age as me, around in the 20s, and they weren't really worried because they were fine. They got sick for a moment and then they came out of it okay, right? And that had seemed like that was the general feeling among my friends. That, okay, if we get it, nothing really bad is going to happen. Even though some people we heard on the news, young people can still die. It's like, or whatever, you can die from smoking cigarettes. So a lot of people didn't take it seriously. Whereas older people were much more worried because they're at risk, right?
We must act like any wartime government and do whatever it takes to support our economy.
even though the government announced that the country was in a wartime, but people's reaction did not show the same due to the lack of law enforcement supervision.
It's a lockdown, which means you don't just come in and sunbathe. Can you please just leave?
So if you are seeing this is the facts, and when crisis comes, our action towards that is very extreme. We are going to demolish it instantly. Any risk is not allowed. Compared to the UK side, you start to see people not having a very good awareness of what exactly they are going to get. And so they lost the first period of get rid of it. When you are looking at the Western side, I mean, the last big pandemic they will experience was back in 1918 of the Spanish flu. And that we can very confidently say they have experienced proper pandemic for the century. And they didn't realize how severe it could be. So once that hit in Italy first, that was a big warning sign towards the UK, is why we are not doing anything. And then the spread really gone crazy. But in China, you could see, I mean, the government took a big hit and blocked Wuhan instantly, and then very strong policy. No one's going out. Everyone's following the rules because we want to save the economy. So in the UK, they were balancing exactly what we were trying to say is whether we save economy or life. So it was a hard decision for the first lockdown.
officials themselves not adhering to their own policies, so they keep getting caught. Like there was a politician that was arrested in Scotland because they didn't follow the rules. They went to London and then tested positive for CV19 and then went back to Edinburgh, so that affects spreading it. And when people see that their own officials aren't supporting that, they won't follow the rules.
当时的那个情况是大家都还没有意识到疫情这个事情很严重，所以在武汉的那个时候，大家都在准备过年的食物呀，包括年货呀，所以基本上街上是全部都是人，就没有什么那种疫情的那种变化。然后从23号封城的时候开始就非常夸张，因为是突然间封的城，我就觉得说，因为人他有一个过程，你突然发生一件事情，你没有一个经验。你就是很恐惧啊！武汉是封城之后是没有人上街的，你哪怕要去医院，你可能都要徒步。最初的时候是没有志愿者去开车送医护人员跟就是病人去医院的。然后我在乡下是这样，乡下它是村跟村之间所有的路都是阻断的，是不可以就是跨村跨这个镇去这样流通的。然后村跟村之间所有的路也是用石头就是堵起来。
当时就是国内湖北人都表示很恐慌，他自己本身就怕感染这个病毒，然后又很听政府的政策来实施一切事情。然后到了这边过后，民众好像就并不太听政府的话吧。然后包括你走到大街上都很少人戴口罩。中国把新冠疫情这个事情就是说的很严重的样子。包括我到这边来，我感觉我对新冠这件事情好像有点麻木了，好像我也感觉是一个很小的感冒了一样。除了就是不能去学校上课以外，我在寝室里面生活让我一点也感觉不到这边是在封城的阶段。因为你可以出去买东西啊，你可以想去哪就去哪，只是不能去学校上课而已。我觉得封与不封它好像没有什么多大的意义在这边。
像中国的话，可能大家还是会更看重集体的一些东西，就会为了一个集体的一个目标去牺牲掉个人的一些东西但是可能在西方的一些文化的概念下，个人的一些选择是非常珍贵的。像中国，比如说我们如果大家都说不要出去，不要出去，不要出去，大家还蛮听话的。但这边还是会有人要出去，因为他们每天习惯的东西是我今天要健身，我今天要遛狗，我今天这是我的 daily routine， 我要 keep daily routine 不一样的。 我觉得中国政府当时是为了在最快的程度当中，最快的时间当中控制疫情的扩散，这是他的努力，并且还要最大程度的确保恐慌情绪不要扩散。第三，极大程度的要保证在封城之后的经济恢复到疫情前的状态，这是3个他们要处理的一个比较大的问题。那在这3个问题下会存在很多的小问题，或者是说个人的问题被忽视，那么这些被忽视的问题就是他们没有努力去做到的。应该说是在比如说我们经常也是我们做一些事情我们要舍弃掉一些方向，这些东西可能是他们觉得说我们要先把主要问题处理之后再面对的次要问题，那这些次要问题其实是引起了很多的争议的。
当时佛家社区有感染，当时就有感染，然后我们大年初1的时候晚上就从社区头我隔壁单元拉走一个人，对，然后一旦有感染，他的一个单元的人全都不能出门，社区的服务人员就把6栋楼给封死了，然后就限制他们不能出门，他们有什么需求的话就让社区的人去送。对，然后再往后一点的过后，就是一个小区有感染的那个小区就被封了。然后我来到这边过后，就是一个 flat 有一个人感染了，就是那个 flat 就给封掉了嘛，但是其他的人都不影响，对吧？我们 reception 就会送一些食物到他的寝室门口放着，然后让他自己去取。
其实回想起来，就是那个时候封城是唯一的解决办法。对，因为其实武汉的医院，你平时去3甲医院都特别的挤，所以那个时候可想而知，如果有轻症加重症的病人一起都到那些医院去，医院的负荷是完全承受不了的，所以那个时候是绝对不能让这个病继续再蔓延下去，所以他们才采取了非常严厉的封城措施。
可能有很多的就是各式各样的想法，但是我的经历这个事情让至少是像我这样的年轻人嘛，就是90后这一代，是更加相信国家是国家的能力的，而且在这个事情过程当中，你也看到了我们国家在面对这个事情当中，一切是以我们的人民出发的，就是你看到了很多的人其实就是并没有那种事不关己的状态在看待这个事情，你会发现很多的人我们国家在面对这种灾难的时候，我们所有人都愿意为了别人去付出，这个东西是让我感受非常深的。
It reflects the government's strength to enforce their policies. Obviously in that city in China, they've put the rules firmly in place so everyone knows exactly what's going on. You're getting food delivered, you're getting all your suppliers delivered to your door so you don't have to go anywhere. In this country, nothing like that has happened because you're still having to go to supermarkets to get your supplies. You're still having to leave your house and, you know, get your medication if you need it. You still have to leave your house to go to work, like myself. So at the end of the day, I think it's come from the government allowing or, you know, not allowing these things to happen. And in this country, they're obviously a lot more lenient and haven't followed through with the policies as such. I think we should never have come out of the first lockdown. They've kind of dragged it out, opened up things in stages, kind of dripped it out to us as the public, and now we're kind of suffering again because we're going back into the initial lockdown that we first started with. We've almost done like a whole cycle this year, and now we're going to be starting the whole new year in a lockdown again. So it's just very Very frustrating, very frustrating.
I think that the way that the Chinese government attacked the situation was actually perfect, and I think it's because they're used to SARS, they're used to loads of outbreaks in that area. I remember myself when I was speaking to a lot of students, a lot of people back in January and February, I told them this was a serious issue, that they shouldn't be traveling down in that area, they shouldn't be doing this and that, and that it's going to come to the UK and it'll be very serious. And everyone said to me that I was overinflating the situation, that I was just being like jealous of people traveling, when actually, because I've lived in like Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Kenya, Sudan, I understand how these outbreaks affect people. In general, Western people, they enjoy their freedoms, they enjoy their right to protest, they enjoy their individual rights. They don't like the people telling them what to do, especially the government. And the government keeps changing their position. You know, they're like, second lockdown will never happen, and then it's happening. 2 weeks ago, they were like, January, there's not going to be a lockdown, people go back to school. And then kids went back to school on Monday. Then the next day, they were like, nope, schools are closed.
It should never be the case that the government has been put. I don't think it's right that the government has this amount of power to be able to say you can't see your friends, to mandate what you have to wear on your face, to say you have to stay at home, you can't see your family, cancel Christmas, just on and on and on. I think we have certain rights, and one of those main ones is to provide our own living selves. And I think to discourage that, I think it is criminal. To close down small businesses which employ over half the country, and that's why you have over half the country now dependent on the government. The government is doing what it thinks the will of the people is. That's a very dangerous thing, because then you are saying that there is a collective will, and you're saying there is such a thing as a collective will, and by doing that you're basically saying that people are not individuals. And I think the only thing I care about is individual rights and freedom of speech. And I think when you get into the point where you're saying this is the good of all the people, there have been many horrible human beings throughout history who have said something very similar to that.
我们是分等级的嘛，如果不是一级防控的话，它不会送到你的门口，然后你是可以去买菜的。
有什么想知道的照片？
我觉得首先在欧美的一些地区本身，他们就会有对于政府不满，然后选择来上街游行的这样一个习惯，本身就有这样的一个习惯。在中国我不敢说以前没有，但是至少80年代以后是没有的。中国前期的确也是有一些抗议的行为，但我们没有选择上街抗议，并不是因为说我们到底要不要去选择这个方式来抗议与否，而是我们的发声渠道并不多，我们选择用网络上的方式来解决这个问题。上街一大部分原因是肯定是需要自己的声音被认可的，是要把自己面对的一些难处呈现出来给社会看。
Despite that, the economy recession has not been avoided. The UK GDP growth rate in 2020 was -9.9%. According to the Bank of England historical data, the last time when GDP collapsed higher than in 2020 was in 18th century. And in China, although the GDP maintained positive growth, it was still the lowest growth rate they showed in the past 40 years. Besides those differences, there were also something similar to both of the countries. The scientists of the two countries play a really important role during the pandemic. In China, the first person suggested to lock down was not anyone from the government, but the academician Li Lanjuan. Her advice, which was unprecedented, would lead the Hubei province with nearly 60 million people into lockdown. In the UK, the strict scientist did not advise to lock down at the beginning, but he predicted many things right.
That if you completely locked down absolutely everything, probably for a period of 4 months or more, then you would suppress this virus. All of the evidence from previous epidemics suggests that when you do that and then you release it, it all comes back again. So the other part of this is to make sure that we don't end up with a sudden peak again in the winter, which is even larger, which causes even more problems.
There are some video footage which provide us a glimpse of the lockdown in the northern area of China in this winter. The government made the seals and then put them on the doors of the residential buildings. On this movement, most of the residents chose to cooperate, and the medical workers would go to their home and do the COVID test in the following days. The inhabitants were strictly not allowed to leave their house. All the necessities was relying on the delivery by the volunteers, but sometimes, due to lack of labor, some of the residents might need to ask their neighbors to help with food. Even in a situation lack of food and not able to leave their house, the people can still understand and cooperate with the government. Under this kind of strict control, in a few weeks, the lockdown in Tonghua City went away on the end of February. In the same time, the UK is suffering from another national lockdown in this winter. This video was taken in Birmingham. It was clear to see most of the shops were closed on the street, just the same as in China. But the difference was that there were still many people walking around. Even the social distancing has not been followed. Under this freestyle kind of lockdown, it is hard to tell when the lockdown goes to the end.
I think that over the winter, people are even at more risk, right, for dying from COVID. You know, everyone's more at risk from getting sick. So I think that they've handled this winter lockdown pretty well. There's been, a greater presence of, now there's signs everywhere telling you about the effects, the reasons, and what the rules are. Overall, I think that it's been hard enough, and I think that if it was any stricter, like in places like Italy and France, where they had curfew, and after a certain time you couldn't do things, and I think it would have been an even harder winter where people are suffering from, just feeling depressed.
I would say towards the end, now I think UK government is doing the right thing. Last year it was a waste, in my opinion. This year, they are really, really going down the ground, being solid, and being tough and firm. That's what we need during crisis. Have a good communication strategy as a country, I think, from the government's point of view. We can understand lockdown doesn't make sense. And so lockdown plus vaccine is, you see a spike in December, but now we saw a dramatic drop in February of the case increase number, and the death rate definitely went down a lot. It's giving people a buffer of safetyness, so they know, the thing we're doing are correct, and we shouldn't panic.
I think at the moment with the vaccine plan and how they are planning to roll it out, I think by July we would be back to some kind of normal, and hopefully by September.
I think if this lockdown can really hit hard, and we follow it through for a good month to 2 months, I would say maybe summer.
I don't think we'll ever go back to a normal life. I don't think life will never be the same again.
I think it'll be a long time until we go completely back to normal. But hopefully by the summertime there'll be a sense of normality, and shops and restaurants will be back open, and everyone will be able to socialise again.
So I recently got an email about music festivals that are back on in August, right? So I haven't been watching the news every day, because, in the beginning it was like every day, let's watch the news, let's see the announcements. They get boring, it was like, okay, it still sucks, not much has changed, so I stopped watching that. But now I started getting emails saying, okay, soon we'll be able to open up our gym again, soon this festival we're taking bookings again. So it seems the overall feeling is that by summer we should be back to being able to enjoy ourselves.
You can see quite a lot of reports released by consultancy firm, especially by McKinsey. They estimated 2023 will be the benchmark year. We're looking forward to back to normal. Last year, we estimate the vaccine will be out in winter, and it did happen. So So this year we will really test how effective vaccine is, and next year we will test how vaccines actually really work out for our life. And each winter will be a spike period for us to look at. And once we can pass the winter, and that's pretty much sure, we can pretty much happy or confident. I mean, we can go out again.